What's up, YouTubers and He-Man fans? Today we are taking a look at the brand new released Masters of the Universe Revelations Masterverse He-Man. As you can see on the front of the box, it says Revelations in a red and black lettering. If I tip the box up towards us, on the top of the box it says Masterverse, and deep within this blue color you can actually see some different hieroglyphics. And over here there's a sword, right around here there's a horde symbol. So those are kind of neat to have some Easter eggs in the actual drawing of the box. Looking at the side of the box, there's an absolute gorgeous picture of He-Man right here. And this is a callback to the original artwork from the original Mode 2 line, and I always loved their artwork on their cards and packaging. On this side of the box it says He-Man, most powerful man in the universe, and that's kind of faded out. Nice touch right there. And on the back of the box, over here on the left side, another really fantastic drawing of He-Man. All the characters in this wave. And there's a small bio right here. Feel free to pause the video and read it if you need to. And of course, this line is actually put out by Mattel. So let me flip the box back around to the front, and we'll look at the large window on the front of the packaging. Here you can see his He-Man, and of course his set of hands, the shield, and his power sword. Now, this is a fantastic way to display this figure if you want, but you know me. Let's open it up and see what he's all about. With everything out of the packaging and laid out on the table, you can see everything that's included. The first thing we'll take a look at is, of course, his power sword. And I'll bring this in close, and it's got a nice silver blade with a gray hilt right here and dark brown wrapping. And I love how the silver actually captures the light like that. So that's a great touch. And the length of this thing is perfect too. Next we'll take a look at his shield. And He-Man's also known for his shield. He's got the gray shield with the orange paint highlights around the circle. And if I tip it this way, you can see the actual raised rivets all the way around. And here's the straps that he actually puts his hand in to hold it on his arm. This is a nice rigid plastic, so it's not flimsy at all. And lastly, we'll take a look at the extra set of hands they gave us. And these are gripping hands, a right and left hand. And what I'll do is I'll put one of these down and show you the actual hinge joint that's on the hands themselves. Right here, there's a pin. And this actually hinges in this direction. And these hands are given to you in case you don't want to use the actual hands that are on the figure itself. Let's look at the star of the show, of course. I'll bring him in nice and close, and you can see his blonde hair with the brown highlights on it. He's got a strange look about his face. Not sure what he's thinking at the moment, but if you look at his eyes, those are actually absolutely perfect. No paint slop. Those came out fantastic. A manly looking chin on this figure. If we come down to his chest piece here, that's in a dark gray with the red H on the front, and the squares are actually nice and bright red with no paint slop. Down around his waist, he has a nice wide yellow belt and this dark brown fake fur loincloth that's nice and flexible. So when we go to move the legs later, it should flex pretty easily. We'll come down to his boots. You can see the dark brown fur on the top of the boots and the actual lacework around the boots themselves in a different color brown. Looking at his left forearm, you can see the yellow gauntlet that's used for protection, and he has a brown highlight over his back of his hand to protect the back of his hand, of course. This has some nice looking detail on it. And on his right wrist, he's got the yellow barbarian type bracelet with the raised rivets. If we spin him around to the back, you can see more of his highlighted blonde hair, and you can see how the strap work goes all the way around the back, and these straps actually do disconnect, and there's no sword holder, but you can do this with the sword. It's a shame that they didn't actually include a sword holder, but this will definitely work. Looking at the back of his legs, you can see all the great detail back here and all the musculature on the figure all the way around. Now, I've read some reviews and some blogs on the internet, and it seems like a lot of the hardcore Mode 2 fans aren't really too ecstatic about this line, but call me the minority, but I'm actually happy with them. Now, as we go over the articulation, I want to take my time and point out a couple of tricks, if you will, that I figured out along the way. And let's go over the articulation right now. So, of course, his head moves left and right. And being on a ball joint, he does have a little side-to-side action. he can look up this far, and he can tuck his chin in really far. Next, we'll take a look at one of the interesting points that I figured out. Now, regarding his shoulders, he got his arms tucked nice and tight along his side. His arms do raise up this far, but there's a pin right here, and in order for you to get this to lay nice and flat, you do got to kind of work it in a little bit like this. Now, originally, I thought his arm only went down this far, until I worked with it and actually figured out it goes in all the way down. Now, of course, these actually rotate 360 degrees if you need to. If I put his arm out straight, he actually has a bicep swivel. And he has a pinless double joint elbow. And the range on this is absolutely fantastic. So it's just beyond 90 degrees. If I slide down his wrist gauntlet or forearm gauntlet, you can see the actual wrist joint. This rotates 360 degrees. And this actually has a hinge point here that goes in this direction. And it only goes back about this far. Of course, the gauntlet itself is hindering it a little bit. We'll move over to his right wrist. And this actually has the same hinge joint. It goes up and down really far. And all the wrist joints are identical. Let's come down to his diaphragm. You see there's a cut right here. And that rotates left and right. And it wants to spring back a little bit because it's still rather stiff. Now this same joint, you can lean the figure back this far. And he leans forward about this far. And what's rather odd is if you have the figure upright, like this, it doesn't tend to spring back as easily. Let's go down to the waist. There's actually a waist joint. That only rotates right and left, or side to side. Now coming down to his legs, this is where that flexible loincloth comes in handy. He can do the splits really far. Now this is the second point of the articulation I want to bring attention to. If you try to put his legs down, they only go about this far. Let me pick up his loincloth and show you. Now if you take the actual leg and push it in and up, now his leg is absolutely perfectly 90 degrees. So out, this way, and in and up. And if you do that for both the legs, he'll be standing up nice and straight. Now there's a cut right here on the thigh joint, which swivels in this direction. Can't forget the Spartan kick forward.
This is Sparta!
Yeah, I love that clip. He's got a pinless double knee joint. So, spin this around here. We'll bend his leg. Nice, tight range of motion here. Now, right around the fur of the boot, there's a joint, a boot cut, which rotates in this direction. And if we straighten his leg back out, we'll come down to his foot. You can point his toe down this far, and his toe up this far. And of course, this is actually on a rocker and a peg hole in his heel. And some of the actual reviews I noticed were people complaining that they couldn't get his legs to go upright. And as I said earlier, you just got to work it up and vertical in that direction. That's all. I, for one, actually really enjoy this figure. This brings He-Man to the forefront once again, and with all this fantastic articulation, you'll be able to get him into some pretty dynamic poses. Now we'll go over how to swap out his hands and, of course, all the other accessories he comes with. And as I said earlier, these are gripping hands. And if you choose to put the gripping hand on the left side and put the sword in his left hand, you can. But that hand is straight, and that's actually built to hold the shield. You can see the strap work here. And let's get this on He-Man himself. His hand slips in here nice and easily. These straps are pretty flexible, and you can see it actually goes over the wrist gauntlet. And this isn't falling off at all. And with all this great articulation, he can block his upper body completely. Now to swap out his right hand, you just take it and you give it a nice little tug. Comes out really easily, and there's no fear of breaking. This figure I don't feel like I have to heat it up at all, and this just plugs in just as easily. You look at it, make sure it's seated in there. There we go. And we'll try the power sword in his right hand. Now the hand is a little rigid, so let's see if we can get this. Yeah, this just clips in really easily. And he's holding onto that sword nice and tight. And yeah, he ain't letting this go. Now that he has his sword in hand and of course his shield, he's ready to take on Skeletor's legion of bad guys. Now let's remove his sword and shield, and I'll show you that the actual gauntlet does come off. Get this out of the way, and you just pull the hand out, and this slides off really easily. It's made out of a nice rubbery, flexible plastic. And I'm not sure if the right hand wrist bracelet comes off. Let's see. Looks like it might be glued on there. It's on there pretty tight. I don't know, maybe mine's just glued on, so that one doesn't come off. If I turn them around to the back side, you can see the chest armor comes off. This is nice and flexible. You just feed these through the square loops, if you will. Slip it over his head, and let's put his hands back in so he doesn't look so silly looking. These go in really easily, and here we have He-Man without any of his gear on. And we'll wrap up this video by doing some height comparisons, and I just so happen to have the Super 7 Ultimate Lion-O figure right here, and of course his partner, Panthro. And you can see He-Man is a bit taller than these two, and that is by design with this brand new line. Let me grab my tape measure, and as you can see, He-Man is just over the 7-inch mark. And keeping in mind that not everyone is the same height, I think he fits in with these figures relatively well. Well, that's going to wrap up my review of the brand new Masters of the Universe Revelations He-Man figure. With his 30 points of articulation, fantastic opposability, and here's to hoping that the Netflix series is fantastic too. I'd say go ahead and pick them up. And as always, I'd like to thank you for watching. And if you like what you see, join the community and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to help a fellow collector out and share your knowledge.